Hey Photo World, welcome back to another episode here on TakeandTalkPics.com. This is another episode from the former podcast. Please subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join the email list. Let's get to that 1,000 subscriber marker so that way I can add a new video every single week. Enjoy. Take and Talk Pics. Hey Photo World, this is episode 45 featuring Garrett MacLean.
I kind of put myself in those positions where no isn't an option. Like I have to say yes.
Today's featured guest is Garrett MacLean. Garrett, are you ready to rock today?
I am, yep.
Awesome. Garrett is an environmental and documentary photographer based out of Detroit, Michigan, who tells the stories and happenings of the people throughout Detroit. In 2007, Garrett's work in Haiti was shown at the San Francisco Art Gallery. His project, titled No Fat Hatians, Images from Haiti's Central Plateau, featured subjects in their lives, the many struggles they face on a day-to-day basis, and the urgency the nation faces as a whole. Garrett, welcome to Take and Talk Pics.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate being here.
Absolutely, and we just want to tell your story. I barely scratched the surface, so can you introduce yourself to Photo World and tell us a little bit more about you?
Sure. My name's Garrett. I have been living in Detroit for 8 years now. Moved here from San Francisco, where I've been living in an art collective, group of artists in the Mission District, and had made the move to Detroit in order to kind of have the time to work on longer photo projects. And in doing so, I've been to Haiti a couple times, documenting healthcare issues in the mountains of the Central Plateau. And then also recently, I was just in Nicaragua documenting people that are being displaced by the canal that's being built. That's going to be an ongoing project. I worked on that for 6 weeks, just kind of touching the surface of it. And then I'll be going back either this fall or winter to kind of follow up and continue on that problem that's facing the people in Nicaragua. So
yeah, that's cool that you're getting out there and telling these stories, and you get to travel a little bit to do these things. So it shows your passion, but then you kind of get to have the business living a life you want to live. And when we're talking about photography, it is a business at the end of the day. So I like to try to, find out inspiration that keeps us going for what we're doing in our lives, whatever kind of work we're doing. Do you have a mantra or a quote that kind of drives you a little bit?
Yeah, I've got it actually taped to my wall, and I had pulled it down for the podcast. It's a section of Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman, and I'll read it quick. And it goes, this is what you should do. Love the earth and sun and animals, despise riches, give alms to everyone that asks, stand up for the stupid and crazy, devote your income and labor to others, hate tyrants, argue not concerning God, have patience and indulgence towards the people, re-examine all that you have been told in school or church or in any book. Dismiss what insults your very soul, and your flesh shall become a great poem. And that kind of is a way that I just try to interact with people, and that's such an important aspect of my work. It's definitely it's a collaboration, because I still do a little bit of landscape work, but I try to incorporate people into everything that I'm doing photography-wise now. I need people to be open and honest in order to get the best work that I can make. And so there has to be a very open communication between us. And so that's kind of the mantra that I have, just in terms of being able to work with people and make them feel comfortable enough to open up to me and create a great photo.
And it covers so many different grounds. Like it's got kind of the moral understanding you should have, and just the way you should interact with others, and don't get too deep into things concerning God, but just talk about life and things happening there, and just kind of keeping it on a nice safe line for interaction, but an honest one. And it kind of describes just choose right over wrong and do the right thing and keep moving forward. That's a really great quote, so thank you for bringing that to us here.
Oh yeah, somebody, a friend of mine who's an author, he dishes a bunch of good things to read on me, and he had given me Leaves of Grass, and somehow I had missed that in high school and college. So when I read it, when I hit that one passage, it really resonated. So I made sure to type it up and throw it on my wall. Yeah,
I've actually never read it, but I think it's got to go on my list now, because that quote kind of got me a little energized as is. So I think I got to see what else is in there,
Yeah.
So what sparked your interest in photography to get you started enough to pursue it as a career?
I kind of came to it as just an interest that I had. I went through college. I went to Middlebury College in Vermont. I actually studied to be a writer, and I never took a photography class. And then when I got out of college, I was living in Boston and working for a .com company. And there was just this idea in the back of my head that I had always wanted to have a camera and take pictures. Mm-hmm. And I ended up buying a used camera off a friend of mine, and just started investigating the world. I was walking around Boston. It was kind of a shift of like, up to that point, everything had been about school. You know, I'd gone to a fairly intense high school. It was all about getting me ready for college. And then college was all about getting me ready for the real world. And then getting to the real world, I was like, okay, now I can kind of make my own choices and get out there. And part of it was just exploring. And I moved from Boston to New York, and I just walked every day with my camera for 3 years. And I was just investigating the world and learning about photography through shooting as much as I could. And then there was this little shop in the East Village that when you got your film developed with them, they gave you another roll of film for free. So I just crushed that. I just went through like 300 or 400 rolls a year. And it was awesome because I didn't know what I was doing, but that also eliminated limitations. I could just kind of try different things. And at a certain point when I realized that it was really resonating with me, I recognized that living in New York wasn't going to allow me to further that. So I moved to San Francisco and started working as a photo assistant. And that was kind of like a grad school experience for me, where I got to see the business side of it, but also a very meticulous approach to photography, how people interacted with clients, how they went through a shoot, whether it was on location or on a set. And it really expanded my horizons in terms of what was necessary to get the final image that you needed, that you really wanted. And so that was kind of my path to where I am. But it all was born out of just the love of walking around and finding new things with the camera.
Yeah, that's one of the nuggets I took away, was just the idea of, you know, having your camera with you and shooting a lot. I mean, what, 400 rolls in a year? That's insane. I mean, like, photo world, you got to realize you got to put in the time, you know? It's totally worth it.
I still have a suitcase full of film upstairs that is just like stuff that I shot when I visited Tokyo and Berlin, 12 years ago, that one day, if it has existed to this point, that I will, that I'll get developed and see what's on it. But, yeah,
it's going to be one of those legacy things, the Vivian Maier or whatever, where they find all your other work, and discover it, and somebody else will develop it someday.
I'm waiting to get some kind of like bumper crop grant where I just have more money than I know what to do with, and then I can just be like, well, I'll dedicate a couple $1,000s to getting that all sorted.
Yeah, that lab will be happy to have some film come in for a change. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I really liked how you kind of went through the formal education for writing and other things, and then found photography as an interest, but then did the whole self-taught thing, and then took the step of learning from others, which is a big thing that a lot of people out there miss. They go pick up a camera because it's easy now. They start shooting because they think it's simple. They can look at it and review it on the back of the camera, make some adjustments, and then they're close. But the truth is, you can learn so much more, and like you said, the business side, from others, seeing how to interact with clients, just kind of knowing pay scale and certain things, what value really is and how to price that. And then you kind of see the ups and the downs. I mean, have you seen or been a part of a failure moment, a learning moment that was kind of the hard thing in the business side, and oops, it didn't work out then, but you're better for it now?
Yeah, when I moved to Detroit, it was right before the economy collapsed in 2008. So I had kind of lucked into it, a couple different positions where I was shooting kind of editorial and some portraits for an online branch of a magazine that's based out of Detroit here. And that kind of got me into shooting portraiture and editorial kind of on a consistent basis. And one of the jobs that I got was shooting for Time magazine. And out of that, I got an opportunity to sign with Redux Pictures based out of New York. They're an agency that kind of takes work that photographers are doing and sells it in story form to magazines around the world. And I just wasn't ready for that experience. And so I signed with them, and I gave them some of the work that I shot in Haiti but I was at that point, I was really questioning what type of work I wanted to be doing, and I kind of just let it go silent. And that is something that I look at as, both a failure on my own end of not getting enough work to them, but also missing an opportunity to get my work out there on a consistent basis, to have a venue or have somebody that's looking out for getting my work into the world. And I actually just reconnected with them since I got back from Central America, and I produced two bodies of work, one from Nicaragua and another one that I shot in Guatemala. And they were really receptive to working with me again. So, there was a window of opportunity that I felt like I wasn't getting my work out there, but thankfully, I can still use them, work with them to get my work out there moving forward.
Yeah, and that's really cool that you're able to make that connection again, because I think a lot of us either, have a little bit of a fear, like maybe I'm not ready for that level yet, or whatever the case might be. And it sounded like that was kind of the case for you at the time. But, that intimidation is like, it could be okay, because I think what that did is it pushed you to go out and try to achieve the next level, whatever that is for you. And same for you, Photo World out there, like whatever that next level is, you got to be pushing for it. And then nothing is set in stone. You can always ask. The worst you can get is a no. So you can always come back and ask as a better developed photographer, higher skill set, and, more years under your belt, other things you've done. It's okay to build some experience and then go back to the opportunities you feel that you wish you had or wanted to get, So, knocking on doors is huge, and so many people miss that. They really do. I feel like we sit online and we're like, I got a website, that should be good enough, and it doesn't do the trick every time, And we have a wide...
and it's even just...
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say, even getting out there, I found that you have to be pretty persistent in getting out there. Creatives are getting so much information sent to them that you either have to have an interesting way of catching their attention or be persistent. Otherwise, you get lost in the thousands of emails that they're getting every week. So
yeah, that's the thing is, you think you got your website or your Facebook page or you're tweeting enough, and you're one of millions attempting the same kind of goals. So, you got to find the way to set yourself apart or take it to another level instead of just the traditional thing that everybody's doing with the social media today. I can't believe that's already traditional in my mind. Oh my gosh, where am I living? So we have a wide range of photographers listening, and there's some starting out, there's some pros just trying to see who else is out there and what they're doing. And do you have an idea of something that would lead to growth and success in a photography business, regardless of their current level at all?
Sorry, my internet just cut out there for a second, so I missed that question. I apologize.
No, it's okay. What I'm going to do is we're going to cut the video, so we can turn off the video and just switch over to audio.
Okay.
And that should help clean it up a little bit, because it could be my end too. So, all right. So we have a wide range of photographers listening. And could you share with Photo World one thing you think would lead to growth and success in a photography business, regardless of their current level?
I'm probably not the best person to have. I don't know that I adhere to the traditional view of success when it comes to having a photography business. But the way that I've found my business to grow the most is to follow the projects that I'm passionate about. If I am deeply in the work that I'm doing, then regardless of who it's for, I feel like I'm going to make sure that I get the best work that I can. So there are times where I take jobs, and if I'm not fully behind it, I feel like I'm still producing good work, but I don't have that drive that's coming from within to really make it sing. And when it's a pick that I have to do, that's the work that I'm putting on my website. That's the work that I'm most proud of. So I'm trying to make the decisions to do those projects and then find a way to monetize it. So the work that I did in Central America, I got Vice magazine in the UK to cover the photo essay that I did on Nicaragua. And then I'll do a couple art exhibitions here in Detroit. And then I'm going to actually go down to Guatemala and do an exhibition down there next winter. And it's finding a way to make that work possible, but also a way to make money off of it. But at the end of the day, it's still, that's the work that I want to be doing. So that's what I'm chasing. I'm chasing doing the work that I love. And again, like I said, that's where I'm coming from. And I know that's not how a lot of people can.
I think it's hysterical. I get so many. I love doing these interviews, and I ask the same questions, or virtually the same questions, to each photographer. And every once in a while, just like you did today, they'll say, I don't know if I got the best answer for this. I don't really have the normal kind of ideas about it. And I think that's the stuff that I love the most, because the traditional sense of business, it's kind of getting burnt out, and people are looking for new innovative ways to make changes and grow and develop their business, or just what they're doing with social media or their lives. It doesn't matter what aspect you look at it. You have to be different. You have to take a different approach. And I think that's the best way to explain it to Photo World. So I don't think you had a phony answer or anything like that at all. I think it's brilliant to go and shoot with the drive and the passion behind what you love to do and what you believe in, and then find a way to monetize. And I think that is the hardest thing to do as an artist, as a creative, to take our passion and let that be the front runner of it all, and then go out and figure out, how do I make money with what I just did, instead of the traditional sense, quote unquote, air quotes aren't good on a podcast, I guess, but the traditional sense of a business saying, where can I get jobs that I can make money? And then you end up doing what you, quote unquote, love, because it's what you love to do. I'm a photographer. I get paid for what I do. But if we can just get in our own minds and flip it that way, like you did, I think that's brilliant.
Well, the other thing that I think or comes out of that is, say you have trouble monetizing it, you then have a body of work that you're really passionate about, and then you can get that out there. Being able to get that work to the types of people that want to hire you to do that type of work. Like if I'm photographing food, which I've done, and I enjoy doing it, but it's not anything that drives me to the point that going to Haiti and going to Nicaragua does. That's not going to get me the type of work that I want. I mean, that will help me cover my rent for the month, but in terms of being engaged in a project that fully in on, I feel like those types of, I'm going to get hired for work based off of the work that I love doing. Like if I can, the passion is going to come through in the images. Like the amount of time and energy that I put into a project will show through in the quality of the work. And then that's where you get your connections from. Like people will be like, oh, you could work for our nonprofit. You could shoot this project for this magazine. Like we love what you're doing. So if you make time to do the work that you love, I think you'll get more of that type of work. Or at least that's my thought process. That's my hope.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm going towards.
No, I think that's a really good approach. And Photo World, I apologize for the audio. We just got a little connection interference here. I think we got a lot of the great information out of it, so the little hiccups are okay. So we'll just keep moving forward. But that's all that is there for our Skype interview here. But moving along here, Garrett, I was wondering, an aha moment. I mean, I feel like as photographers, we don't just have one. We have many times in our careers, in our lives, that a little light bulb goes off and we think, you know what, I'm gonna try that, or I'm gonna make that change. And then all of a sudden, things are altered in a way that you didn't expect, and it's for the better, So can you recall a time, a story, something like that happened for you, a little aha moment, where that light bulb went off and boom, it was awesome after that?
Yeah, I kind of can look back at my career, and there are photos that I've taken that all of a sudden I felt like the plateau changed. Like when I was living in New York, for the longest time, I was shooting everything up fairly close, a lot of detail-based work. And I was walking through some random part of Brooklyn, and I remember photographing It was like an old van that was in a parking lot with a fence. And as soon as I took it, there was this change of like, oh, this is the next way that I'm going. It just shook me, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do what I was doing. And that moved me to a place where I had a better understanding of the type of landscape work that I wanted to shoot. And then the next leap was when I was in Haiti, the photo, which is the cover photo on my webpage. It was a portrait of a gentleman that was like laying on this bench. And that was everything I was trying to move towards, but hadn't yet really been able to capture. And it was this environmental portrait that was telling a story that was well composed. I even learned that like I wish I had a light at the time. I was just shooting available light, and in looking at it, it would have helped to have one light to pop him out a little bit. But just in terms of the photo itself, it really solidified the notion that I was moving in the direction that I wanted to be going, and that I could take the photos that I personally felt proud of. And so that just gave me the confidence to keep moving forward with it. And I get those. Like I had another couple from the project that I just shot in Nicaragua, where it just keeps reaffirming that my work is growing, and that my skill set is improving, and that I can visualize something and also make sure that I get that photo. And it's a photo that I'm pleased with at the end. So I don't know that I've had a single aha moment, but it's been a series of aha moments that have kept propelling me forward.
Yeah, I like the way you described it, where it just felt like you hit a different plateau. And I think that's what this podcast is really driving is for the photographers out there who are looking for the next level, regardless of where they're currently at, and hearing the inspiration of other photographers and their journeys and their stories, the ups and downs, the ins and outs of photography, and starting to find some aha moments of their own that can bring them to that next plateau where they're going to, do the work they're going to do and then raise the bar. So I really like that description of it. It's kind of what this whole show is about. So awesome.
Yeah, no, in terms of plateau, I think that one of the things that I am always trying to do is just get better at my craft.
Yeah.
I recognize that it really is a craft, and that the more that I'm out shooting on a daily basis, the more it just becomes secondhand to me. If I'm just shooting available light, like all of a sudden I just have it dialed in my head what I should be metering in my camera light wise. Like I'm just back and forth on the dial, and it feels like I've just got it down cold, and it keeps these plateaus just keep moving me a little forward, closer to this like elusive one photo that I know that I'll never shoot. That's like that's the best photo that I'll ever take, but it keeps moving me towards it. And I always feel happy when I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting better. And I know that I'll never reach a place where I feel content. And so I just keep working at it. And it's really interesting to be in a process where I feel like there's just so much more growth that I can achieve in this craft.
Yeah, that's a good description of it. And I think photography is a really interesting subject to be a part of, because it's so easy to just take a picture. I mean, a carpenter will make a chair and it could be complete garbage the first time they try it, but practicing and continuing to move forward and learning their tools, understanding what they use and how to use it, and then they work until they finally make beautiful pieces, an awesome chair that actually would stay up. It's the same thing. It's so easy to take a picture, but we have to move forward and find that next picture, the better one, and learn our tools, learn our gear, and move forward with it. I think that's forgotten very quickly with most photographers out there, that we kind of feel like, oh, I got this. I can take pictures. Yeah, we can all take pictures, but you have to make pictures. And that's where it's a craft and we're creatives. Yep. So
yeah, and not being afraid to try something different that can push you in a new direction that may be a failure on the first trip, but it gets your brain thinking in a different way that can lead you down a new avenue that takes your photography even further forward.
A quote I got from interview number 1 here on Take and Talk Pics, Andrea Radatoyo. She said, keep failing until you find something that works. I don't recall where she got that from, but it's the same kind of thing, just what we're talking about. And I think that's really helpful for Photo World to be reminded of. You have to just move forward and see what works. Keep trying new things. That innovation we were talking about. So during your photography career so far, what is the best advice you've ever received?
I was working with a photographer named Chris Roche out of the Bay Area, and he was a really great product photographer, and I learned a lot of lighting from him. But he had told me opportunities don't come around frequently, so you really have to recognize them and take them when they show up. Despite the story that I told you earlier about not really embracing that chance with Redux, that's something that's resonated with me both in my life and in photography, is when you have a true opportunity to either move forward, to take a chance, to really embrace that, because you don't have those opportunities every day. That I've just tried to keep in mind. Like the project that I did in Nicaragua wasn't even really thought out too well. I was going to be going to Guatemala anyhow, and I was talking with a friend of mine about trying to get grant money to work on that project in Nicaragua. And he said, well, just do it on your own. You're going to be down there. Just make it happen. And I really didn't have any projects that I had to come back to. So I just kind of did it on my own. And I recognized that I was going to be there. I was going to have my cameras, so I could just put it together and make it happen. And it really gave me the confidence that now coming back, there are other projects that I've been thinking about, that instead of waiting on funding to come through, that I'm just gonna make them happen, because if I'm waiting, they're never gonna get made.
Right. So, exactly. No, that's awesome. And last week on the show, we had a photographer, Brian Peterson was his name, and he said, hey, if you got these ideas that you want to do, go do them, because if it's like, oh, well, that'll take me 10 years, it's like, well, how old will you be in 10 years? Okay. And if you don't do this project, how old will you be in 10 years? So it's just what you're saying. Like, you got to strike while the iron's hot. You got to go for it. It may be difficult, may be hard to see how it can be done, but just do it. Go do the work. It's totally possible somehow, some way.
Yeah. And once you commit to it, I feel like when you're open to making it happen, there are those connections that just kind of seemingly fall in place that help you get there. Like, as soon as you're saying yes, I'm going to make this happen, then all of a sudden, you run into somebody that helps push you further towards making it happen, that bumps you into somebody else, that opens another opportunity. And when you're willing and ready and actively chasing it down, I feel like things start to click more than when you're waiting, just sitting around waiting.
Right. Right. So let's lighten it up a little bit and find out just a little piece of what you do and how you work. What is one piece of gear that you just seem to go to all the time? I mean, other than the camera, because we need that, but is there a specific lens or a light or a tripod, something like that?
I got a Voigtlander, makes a 40 millimeter pancake lens as an f2. And they do it as a Nikon mount or a Canon mount. It's a really sharp lens. It's as sharp as like the L series I shoot on Canon. And it's as sharp as any of my other lenses, but it's half the price. It's like a $500 lens. Wow. But the focus rack on it is really long and smooth. So like if you are shooting pretty wide open, you can get from the tip of the nose to the eyelashes to the eye to the ear, and it's a really long focus. And it's a lot better than some of my other Canon lenses, where I feel like trying to dial that in gets to be really problematic.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that's great about it, if you have a pretty small body with that lens, it's not like you're sticking a big lens in somebody's face that's kind of confrontational. It looks like it's a toy lens. I mean, it's so small.
Yeah.
But it's such high quality that everybody I talk to, I always push that lens. It's like, it'd be great to get some money out of Voigtlander, because I feel like I push that lens on everybody I've talked to. But in terms of value and use, it's that bridge between a 35 and a 50. So it's pretty much my walk around lens.
Yeah.
And it's really low profile and high quality. So that's my favorite lens at the moment.
Well, contact them and see if they'll sponsor you, because you convinced me. I got to check this thing out. I've never heard of it, so I gotta take a look. I just got a mirrorless system, and they're big on the pancake lenses, where they're just really compressed, really easy and lightweight to take with you. So I didn't even know they had that style for traditional DSLRs. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's worth the checkout, and it's definitely bang for the buck. One of the better lenses I've found.
Yeah. So can you tell me about a recent or an upcoming project that you have in the works that you're really excited about?
Well, the one that I just finished was I basically I had lived in Nicaragua 3 years ago, and so I went back because of the people that I know that are going to be affected by. There's a Chinese billionaire who's building a canal through the entire country that will connect the Pacific coast, go through the lake, and then come out on the Atlantic coast. And it's going to displace roughly 100,000 people. And the government and this Chinese billionaire are paying a tenth of what their land value is in order to make this project happen. So there are a lot of people that their lives are going to be turned on their head. And so I went down there to kind of give a face to this problem because just, I consider myself fairly up to date on news information, and I just wasn't really aware of the scale and enormity of this project. And then in talking with friends who I also consider to be pretty up to date with what's going on, they were totally unaware of it. So I figured in order to kind of push the dial on this conversation and get more people aware of it and talking about it, if I can humanize the issue and show the people that are going to be radically impacted by this project, I could go down there and put this project together. So right. I basically walked from town to town, from Boca de Brito, which is the little port town. It had like maybe 10 houses right on this river mouth that opens up into the Pacific Ocean. And that's where they're going to build the main port on the Pacific coast. And then I walked through all the little tiny towns that connected to Lake Nicaragua. And so that, I don't know, the stretch is probably a 25-mile, 30-mile stretch. And I was based out of one town, and every day I would just wake up and go to a different town. And I didn't really have a process behind it. I just kind of was like, okay, I'm going to go here today. And, some days I wouldn't get everything that I wanted, and other days I would stumble across the most amazing kind of photos because I would just happen to be there at the right time. And that kind of was the driving process behind this project, was to just get out there and like not have an idea of what it was going to be, just to see what was happening and to document that. So one day I was talking to this guy who's in the court, like the little side yard of a church, and he was like picking up mangoes, and I thought maybe that I wanted to get in the church and photograph like the priest. And he was explaining to me that one of the ladies in town had passed away that previous night, and that they were going to be carrying her to the cemetery that was on the other side of the river. So they have a different concept of openness around photographing death down in Nicaragua. They kind of fully embrace it. Mm-hmm. So they wanted me to come up and take photos of them carrying the coffin. And to me, that was an interesting story because they were actually bringing her from their town to a cemetery that was like a 45-minute walk away, but that crossed over the river where the canal was going to be built. So in the future, if their town still existed, which if they decided to develop there, it won't. But if they wanted to go visit their family member, they would have to go an hour north, cross over a bridge that they would have to pay $25, and then take a bus to get to where the cemetery is. And so it's just this visualization of like the impact that we didn't, like you think, oh, people are going to get kicked off their land.
Right.
But it's also affecting people in a different way, of like family members that can't, like families that are separated by this canal. It's now a full day experience, whereas before it was a 10-minute bike ride away. So yeah, I just, this project really resonated with me because it was a place that I had lived. It was affecting people that I knew. And I just felt like I had an opportunity to get in while this story was developing. And now that I've made contacts within the, I know some of the main protest leaders that are operating out of Managua and Rivas down in Nicaragua, they keep moving forward with protests, like having marches down there, and they're setting up grassroots organizations in each town to kind of get ready for further protests. And to see that, it made me recognize that this is not just a a short-term issue, they're going to fight for this because they don't have anything. If they're forced off their land, they don't have anything else.
Right.
So to them, this is a fight that they're going to fully embrace. And so that engages me further and makes me realize that, like, I'm going to go back and keep documenting how this issue moves forward.
Wow. I mean, that's a lot of stuff going on, and I appreciate you sharing it in great detail. It really sounds like you should be, doing some writing alongside it and getting some National Geographics to really get it out there. I don't know the process at all of how to do that, but it feels like that's a story worth telling in a lot of ways. And it's awesome that you have a personal connection for having lived there, but then also you've just made the connections with the locals that you're welcome to be there, and invited to these things, because I think a lot of us see that stuff and we don't understand how photographers get that opportunity, and it's not because they're lucky, it's because they've put investment of time and energy into the people and making these projects happen. And a photographer who I reference a few times on the show, and I really like his work, Joey L. I don't know if you've seen his stuff.
I have, yeah.
He does the same kind of thing. It's not about going to take the pictures. It's about the people involved, and then, making some pictures along the way, and telling the stories and getting this information out there. So I think it's a really, really cool approach to what you're doing, and things I only dream about doing. I don't know if I have the guts to get out there and take those chances. So
it's just one of those things that it's definitely outside my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And especially making those connections with people. There's a lot of times of having grown up on the East Coast and like lived in New York, there's this kind of hardwired thing about not talking to people you don't know.
Right.
It's just kind of like, it doesn't fit within the culture there. But the best photos that I got came from, I never just shot people without talking to them first. So I would always talk to people for a while, explain why I was there, what I was doing. But it may not be the person that I was talking to, but it would lead to meeting somebody else. And so by doing that, it just kind of brought me into another world that I didn't have expectations for. And then that really opened me up to getting a photo that felt really new and unexpected. And those are the types of moments that I'm looking to capture. Just these real moments that you wouldn't find unless you kind of are brought in, given the opportunity to be a part of. So
yeah. Can you share with us and Photo World out there a way to get in touch with you or find and follow your work, whether it be a website or some sort of social media?
Sure. I'm not on Facebook. I do. My website is GarrettMacLean.com. So that's GarrettMaclean.com. And then I'm on Twitter, but I'm using that feed primarily to do updates on this Nicaragua project that I was doing, and that is at gmaclean_photog, PHOTOG. So that's my Twitter feed. Those are the two main ways of kind of keeping up with what I'm doing. I'm in the middle of a redesign on my website right now, so I should have the work that I did in Guatemala and Nicaragua up online within the next week or two. It's kind of going through everything that I shot and editing down and then kind of moving around my website. So that should be up soon. It's just not up at the moment.
Cool. Well, we will have these links and the Twitter link for Photo World on the show notes page on Taking Talk Pics. So if they can't find you for whatever reason, we'll have that information there so they can get in touch or ask you a question or follow along just looking at your work. But Garrett, I cannot thank you enough for your time today and sharing such great value. Photo World thanks you, and happy shooting.
Thanks so much, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Photo World, you know I love books, and I know that you love audio, so let's combine these two passions here. If you'd like to get 2 free downloads of books from Audible, go over to the affiliates page. That's under the resource tab on takingtalkpics.com. We have a link there for 2 free audiobooks. Download today from Audible and get motivated. takeandtalkpics.com. Thank you again for joining us today, and we really appreciate you stopping by. Make sure you share this with your friends and photo family out there. We'll see you next time. This is Rob Kruger. Happy shooting.